We are Echo Base Network. Welcome back to the show, guys. We are really excited to be here with you today. Today's episode is about, it's a tale of two different perspectives. We took an original historical document, an interview that was just released. Nick and I did an episode about it yesterday concerning Jon Favreau talking Star Wars and The Mandalorian. We looked at it one particular way, and it's really interesting how another side, another perspective, lends a completely different perspective. And we're actually going to dig into that just a little bit. We're not saying that anybody's wrong, but we really want to revisit Jon Favreau's interview and truly find out.
What did he say?
That's exactly right. What did he say? We're going to bring in my partner here at Echo Base Network, none other than the ladies' man, Nicholas Glenn.
How's it going, guys?
Yes, we are really excited about this. So, Nick, let me run through a couple things before we jump into this.
Right. Yeah, because I was going to kind of give a breakdown too, kind of.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a few points I want to make about it before we really dig into this. And I want to make sure everybody understands that we just see this thing one way and we're having a disagreement. We're not saying that anybody's wrong. We ourselves could be wrong. But we want to kind of justify and explain our thinking and kind of back up and support why it is we believe what we believe. Everybody doesn't agree. And that's okay. And everybody's opinion here at Echo Base Network is certainly welcome. We're open to all of that. But we do have two very different perspectives. Nick, I'll let you get into the other perspective and who said it and kind of shout them out, because we support these people and we support their channels, even though we don't necessarily agree with them on this one, and that's okay. Yeah. So one thing that we want to address with this is we do not have our head in the sand and we're not avoiding reality. That's what one side kind of thinks about another side. We are open to what's happening in the world. We're open to reality. We understand that we could be wrong. And so our heads aren't in the sand just ignoring things right here. And we kind of want to go into some detail there. Ultimately, nobody knows, but everybody needs to be heard. And we're not asking you guys to choose sides or pick sides, but we do want you to let us know what you think in the comments. Now, Nick, I'll let you kind of speak on it, and then we'll actually get into the points.
Yeah, so just like Coach was saying, we did a video covering this interview that Jon Favreau had over the Writers Guild. You can watch that video. We posted it last night. So I woke up today, saw that KINNEL had posted a video, and I'm talking on the same article that Jon Trent over at Bounding Into Comics. And you guys go check out the article from Bounding Into Comics on this, and go check out KINNEL's video on it. Because I watched KINNEL's video, and I thought he made some pretty valid points on a lot of the stuff he was saying. And then I went and watched the Jon Trent video with him talking about the article, and I was like, those are some valid points too. So at that point, I had sent these videos to Coach and was like, check these out. You know, they're basically covering the same topic we covered last night, and they actually make some pretty interesting points. Well, unknowns to me, he was already having a conversation with Ryan and Jon Trent over at Bounding Into Comics over Twitter today on it. So they had kind of already had a bit of a back and forth, having a conversation about it. And then kind of Coach came back with some of his points on stuff, which we'll get into here in a minute. And I was like, yeah, that's actually a good point too. So the thing is, when you're taking in all this information, and there's a lot of it out there, and a lot of it's rumors, a lot of it's speculation, and a lot of this is speculation on our part. And as Coach said, we could be completely wrong here, but we're also not blind to what Disney's done in the past. Kathleen Kennedy's still there. All the woke stuff going on with the High Republic and the story, like we're aware of all that. We're, as he said, our heads aren't in the sand, and we get all that. But it's kind of you know, once you kind of take in all that information and get these different perspectives, your mind starts to change some. And I think that can be said a little bit of what Jon Favreau was saying in this article when he was talking about, you know, Luke wasn't originally going to be in there, but we'll get into all that here in a minute. But I just kind of wanted to get a breakdown of how I came into this and kind of how I'm forming my opinion, and how listening to Ryan and listening to John Trent, how I was taking their stuff into consideration and understanding their points of view and thinking, yeah, that's actually some really valid points there. And then hearing Coach's side of it and kind of saying, well, yeah, that's also pretty valid. So we're going to break this thing down and then let you guys kind of decide. But ultimately, like Coach said, nobody knows. We could be 100% wrong, and they could be 100% wrong, you know. But
or it could be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, only time will tell. You know, it's all speculation at this point, and it's fun to speculate. Like we're having fun, you know, doing this stuff.
Absolutely. Well, without further ado, let's get into what we're calling Coach's 10 points of reason. So as we get into this, Coach's 10 points of reason, I'm going to kind of introduce it, and I'm going to offer Nick a chance to give commentary on any of these options, on any of these things. So Coach's 10 points of reason. Number 1, back to the basics of Star Wars. And there should be a quotations there at the end. So what I want to say is Jon Favreau said he is writing The Mandalorian and getting back to the basics of Star Wars. Now, it was never mentioned. It was never mentioned anything about the sequel trilogy there. Mm-hmm. He's saying getting back to the basics of Star Wars. He said that in the very beginning of the interview. Nick, would you like to offer any commentary on that?
I mean, only what I said last night. I'm glad that he's kind of getting back to the basics of storytelling, the hero's journey, all that sort of stuff.
So what happened before The Mandalorian? The sequel trilogy.
The sequel trilogy, yeah.
And here he is saying he's getting back to the basics of Star Wars, which inherently means a change is happening.
Yeah.
So that's reason number 1. Let's go through these swiftly, and you know we could be dead wrong about these things, but number 2, George Lucas. Now, George Lucas was mentioned over and over and over again throughout the duration of the interview. And I do want to point everybody to, if you haven't seen the interview, you can find it at WGA.org. It is the Writers Guild of America. You could go to their website and read the article in its entirety. But we're looking at number 2, George Lucas. Like I just said, he was mentioned over and over. Favreau even explained how working with Filoni was a link to George Lucas and the original source material. The sequels, J.J. Abrams, Kathy Kennedy, Rian Johnson, none of them, Nick, were mentioned in that part. None.
Right.
So that is number 2. So, Coach's 10. Go ahead.
Real quick, I just thought of something on the first point, and I'll just make this real quick. Right. I think some of the people that will argue on the back to the basics of Star Wars is or some of the arguments I've seen on that is that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are getting back to the basics of writing Star Wars with the story that they're telling now. You know, just within the Mandalorian series, you know. That kind of having nothing to do with this leading to the sequel trilogy.
Sure. Well, 1, back to the basics of Star Wars. 2, George Lucas. Yes. And then 3, we've got the Luke Skywalker plan. Was Luke Skywalker a long-term plan? No. Jon Favreau has publicly came out and said that. Favreau wrote him in, as he says, as the story unfolded. Is the veil of the Force from Star Wars Rebels, is that a part of canon? Yes, it certainly is. Was the veil developed by Dave Filoni? Yes, it was. How easily, oh, how easily could that be written in just like Luke Skywalker was, as the story unfolds.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that you brought up is, you know, Filoni and Favreau have said a lot of things in the past, all the way back to 2 years ago, and all that sort of stuff. But the fact that their path of story writing and telling the story is changing as they go, they could, I mean, anything they said in the past could really be meaningless as they're kind of going down this road, getting the fans' reaction, hearing what they're saying about what they're doing, that they could 100% absolutely change things as they go. Now, are they going to? I mean, who's to say? Who knows until we actually get what they're doing. But yeah, the possibility is there. The possibility of erasing the sequel trilogy is there. Whether or not they actually do that, you know, is a topic for debate for sure.
Right. Well, and I want to be really, before I get into this next point, I want to be really, really careful about this as I say this, because I want everybody to understand that we respect John F. Trent. We respect Bounding into Comics. We see them as somebody that that is a guiding light. They fight for the fans. We appreciate everything that they do. All that being said, John really keyed in on this next point that I'm about to make, and he took it completely differently than me. And if you go and read John's article, this is really the only part of the article that Jon Favreau did. This is the only part of the article that John Trent actually used to support the title of his article, which actually is not a journalistic article. He wrote a column, which is opinion, which is fine. So what he did, Nick, and the fourth point is simply a 2-sentence answer, and I'm saying freedom. And let me explain that. When asked about if Jon Favreau, when he was asked by the interviewer if he felt pinned in narratively or trapped between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, he answered in 2 sentences. That's all. And he doesn't want to say too much. His answer was that he had a tremendous amount of freedom, which pretty much means a tremendous amount of freedom. I can do what I want. The interviewer, this is what I want to bring up. The interviewer is the one who mentioned the sequel trilogy, not Jon Favreau. He didn't mention it at all. He was asked, do you feel like you're pinned in? Are you entrapped between these 2 eras? And Jon Favreau said, no, I have a tremendous amount of freedom between these 2. And that's all that he said. So the very fact that Jon Favreau mentioned the sequel trilogy because he was directly asked about it, that is not proof or evidence to support that a retcon of some kind isn't happening, the veil's not happening, another dimension's not happening. That's not proof at all to me. And that's just my opinion. And I'll let you kind of shoot on that, Nick.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way as you do on that point, that, you know, basically the interviewer asked him and he had to respond to it. And the thing is, if they were doing this veil stuff, if they were going to end up giving Luke an unknown path to the future that doesn't lead to the sequel trilogy, they're not going to tell you that, you know, and if they are leading to the sequel trilogy, they're not going to tell you that either. I mean, there's been some comments that he's made talking about, you know, the time between the rise of the First Order and how when the sequel trilogy happened, they were kind of already established. So, you know, the First Order had been built up, you know, almost saying that they're going to kind of maybe explore the kind of rise of the First Order and how it all created. And that could happen. They could get into that. But after everything that they're seeing from the fans on their dislike for the sequel trilogy, how much they love the version of Luke that we got,
yeah,
I can see at least the possibility that they end up not going there.
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with the storyline.
Right, right. Well, you're stealing a little bit of my thunder in my future points, but we're going to come back and revisit that. It's okay. It's okay.
Right.
It's natural because you're seeing it the same way that I'm seeing it. So,
Yeah, and I don't know all your points here, so I'm kind of just
this is kind of building. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You don't know Coach's 10 points of reason like I do.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen, impacting existing material. Favreau also said, Dave and I are in constant discussion regarding how each story is impacted by and would impact existing Star Wars material. Impact, I believe here, could mean, Nick, some type of change. Talking about an impact. Talking about how something could change.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a very, very interesting word. You know, he just talked about all of the freedom that he has, and they're having constant discussions about the type of impact. Well, what kind of impact would the Veil of the Force have on Star Wars?
Huge
Impact. That's a very interesting word that Mr. Favreau used right there. So let's move on to number 6. You're not doing your job. And Nick, I think this is the most interesting part of the article. Favreau said, this is his words, because at the end of the day, he's talking about the hardcore fans, the fans at the water cooler. He said, because at the end of the day, it's a conversation with that audience, hardcore fans. And those fans are who you are speaking to. And if you're doing something that they're not feeling, you're not doing your job right. Why would he say this and take us right to the sequel trilogy? A trilogy that the majority of Star Wars fans loathe. That makes no sense. And I don't think that Jon Favreau would ever admit to him not doing his job. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, it's almost sort of like the thing is that if all this does lead to the sequel trilogy, what they've given us is, and to kind of give like just a funny analogy, is say you're a 7-year-old kid and your most favorite thing in the world is cheesecake and it's your birthday, and your dad comes home from work and brings you the biggest piece of cheesecake, and then you're so excited and happy for it, and he lets you taste a bite of it while he's getting a plate to put it on a plate and put a candle in it and all that. And instead of putting it on the plate and putting a candle on it, singing happy birthday, he just scarfs the whole thing down right in front of you, laughs in your face, and walks off. And if this leads to the sequel trilogy, and what Ryan and John Trent and stuff are saying, and they are right, that this just all ends up leading to the sequel trilogy, that's basically going to be what all this ends up doing. It's going to be a slap right back in the face.
Then we have a lot of disappointment in our future.
Yeah, a lot of disappointment.
Yep.
And the thing is, if that happens, I mean, I'll rip them apart for it, you know. And,
and here's the thing too: if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But it's our job as a fandom to let them know this is what we want, and that's what we're doing. And ironically enough, that's what RK Outpost and Bounding into Comics is also doing.
Yeah.
But they haven't done anything wrong by seeing it the way that they see it. They're still letting Disney know this is not what we want. This is what we want. And we're all wanting the same thing. So anyways, let's go back to the 10 points of reason. Number 7, spoiler much. And this is what you just kind of got into just a minute ago. Why on earth would Jon Favreau come out and say, we are going a different direction and spoil his own show? This man just kept Luke Skywalker a secret from the world for over a year. And you think he's going to come out and say, we're going to do the veil and we're going to retcon everything? Yeah. I mean,
they're not going to come out and say that.
Of course
not. Even if that's in the works.
Yeah, they would never do that.
You know, but the rumors are out there that that's what they're doing.
Right.
You know, of course, none of that can be confirmed because Disney and Lucasfilm aren't going to come out and confirm any of that. I mean,
yep. Well, let's keep rolling. So number 8, plans change. And you kind of touched on this too. My theory, the huge disconnect between Lucasfilm and what they perceive the fans to want has now been reconnected. Now they know after the reaction of Luke's return. It was bigger than they anticipated, but Favreau knew. Lucasfilm and Disney cannot deny it. They have no choice. The fans are winning We have been heard. Favreau and Filoni are going to take the franchise where the fans need it to go. And ultimately, Nick, plans change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just like him saying that, Luke was they never planned on him even being in the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, plans change. And like I said earlier, with everything, with the huge fan reaction, it's like they see the excitement. They see people loving what they're given. There's talk about it. People are constantly, we're sitting here talking about it, so the thing is they got to recognize that at least, and for them just to go right back into the sequel trilogy and bring Palpatine back into it and, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's going to be a huge letdown.
Yep. And to piggyback on what you just said, bro, point number 9, outdated quotes. People who were on the other side of this thing, using Jon Favreau's quotes from over 2 years ago is a moot point. He just told us he didn't even know Luke would be a part of this story. Do you think they knew they would be doing an Ahsoka show, a Rangers of the Republic, and the possible Luke Skywalker show 2 years ago? So using an old quote, it's just to piggyback on what we just said. Plans change. And we think that the plan has changed. We certainly hope that it has changed. There's evidence to support that the plan has changed. And I just don't think that using a quote from 2 years ago when The Mandalorian first started, that's evidence to support anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're already, working on seasons 3 and 4 of The Mandalorian. So they're pretty excited about where they're wanting to go with this, that they're actually working on the next 2 seasons, Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope that they're wrong. And that this doesn't lead to the sequel, but
as an old basketball coach, I'm going to use this analogy. You just use analogy. This just popped into my head. I've got a team, and our main defense every season is zone, and we're getting ready to play the best team on our schedule, and I determined that the best way to play these people is going to be a full court man-to-man press, and we end up beating them by 40. Well, if we had that much success with a full court man-to-man press, might I consider doing that the next game? Of course. And that's what Luke Skywalker was. That's what the second half of The Mandalorian Season 2 was. It was so much success, how could you not notice? And how could you go take this train to the sequel trilogy? Maybe we're giving Disney too much credit. You can't be that dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. So sort of like Ichibaka's site, Disney Star Wars is dumb.
Yeah.
And the thing is that would be dumb. And like I said, if they do that, I mean, they are going to get trashed.
Sure.
And people are going to, that are starting to come back to the franchise are going to leave again and are going to even be even more down on it and less willing to come back to it later in the future.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Okay. All right. So that leads us to the last point, Coach's 10 points of reason. Number 10, it's not a retcon. It's not a retcon. A retcon is not going to happen. The veil doesn't retcon anything. The veil isn't going to do away with the Disney trilogy. Yeah. The Disney trilogy will always exist. What we will get is an alternate dimension where that future will be different. That way, we will have 2 Star Wars realities. I predict one of these realities will have a very bright future, and one will die a certain death.
Yeah,
it's not a full, complete 100% retcon, and no one has ever said that. Or not to my knowledge. The veil doesn't retcon. It only retcons it in one dimension. The sequel trilogy movies will always exist. Yeah. And the Acolyte will be in that vein, even though it's before. And they're probably in the Rogue Squadron movie will probably be in that vein, in that timeline, in that dimension. But we're going to get future projects, I'm hoping, that will be in the alternate universe, the Favreau and Filoni universe, with Ahsoka, with Luke Skywalker, with the Star Wars that the fandom is behind and really excited about. And that is what we're calling for. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Coach's 10 points of reason. It is not our heads in the sand. There is reason to believe exactly what we do, in fact, believe. Yeah. Nick, I'm going to give you the final word before we roll credits.
Yeah. So all in all, at the end of the day, it's all speculation at this point. But we definitely want to hear from you guys. You know, what do you guys think about this? And definitely go over to Ryan Kinnel's channel, RK Outpost. He just dropped a video on this today. Watch that video and listen to his points, because I watched it today and I thought he made some really compelling points. But Coach in his 10 points actually made some really good counterpoints to a lot of stuff he said. And John Trent also did a video covering his article at Bounding Into Comics. If you guys just go to the Bounding Into Comics YouTube channel, go over and watch those videos also. They're super easy to find. You just type it in the search bar. But then come after you watch that and those videos and came back and heard Coach's counterpoints to this and kind of our discussion on it, you know, kind of form your own opinion and let us know what you guys think in the comment section below, because we would definitely like to hear where everybody else's thoughts are on this.
Absolutely. So as you head over to Bounding Into Comics and RK Outpost, if you have not subscribed to those channels, make sure that you subscribe to them and tell them Coach and Nick sent you. Yep. Guys, as always, we are and you are Echo Base Network, and somebody's wrong here, and it could be me.
Yeah, could be us, 100%.
So we will see you guys on the next one.
All right, see y'all.
I guess I need to roll credits. This isn't even a blooper. Vince Lombardi said, often wrong, never in doubt. I don't know, dude.